We spend too much time as educators worried about the curriculum that we often forget that the container of the curriculum is our students. It's got to be delivered in a human being. In a world where AI can do the work for students, where students can push the easy button, sometimes we forget that there is like a human ROI. The humanity of the classroom really matters. Can we teach the soft skills, if you will, leadership, grit, or do we just hope that that happens along the way? Today, I'm going to go into my, if you will, my parking lot, and I want you to look into how I did this with my students. Welcome back to the Reach Every Student podcast with me, your host, John Bergman. Today marks the start of a special 3-part series. I'm going to take you behind the scenes in my classroom for a project I did with my physics students, both my honors physics students and my on-level physics students. And they had to build a trebuchet. Yeah, that's right. Take a look at the video where they built trebuchets that launched tennis balls across the school field. And over the next 3 episodes, I want to talk today, number 1, about the human element, right? That's the leadership and the mentorship and the soft skills kids learn through this. In episode 2, next week, I guess, we're going to talk about the oral defense, how this actually increased their cognitive understanding, in my case of physics, but you're going to be able to see how it works in all the content areas. And the third one is that I'm going to call the friction of reality. What happens when the perfect math doesn't work and students have to iterate and engineer and solve their problems? So let's start with the people, because before the machine can launch, and I'm speaking metaphorically here, you have to have a vision to lead. So in every professional environment, someone has to own the big picture. In the project, that's like the project manager. Maybe some of you have relatives, spouses, whatever, who are project managers. So in these episodes, I'm going to be featuring students in interviews, and they sat in interviews with me. Remember, in the Mastery Flip model, so there is the AI engines, there is the analog roots, and number 3, there is the Mastery Viva. And the Mastery Viva is an interview that the students did. Now, since this was a summative project, the students had to have an extensive interview with me. They were 10, 12, sometimes 15 minutes max, where I sat, and many of them gave me permission to record them. I got permission from their parents. And yeah, so you're going to be listening to my students, and you're going to have a chance to see them. It'll be awesome. So let's cut to our first clip in just a second, but I want to set it up. So in every environment, somebody has to be, if you will, like the project manager. And one of the students, when I just asked her, I said, "What have you learned about yourself?" And she really went into kind of some leadership things. Before I tell you what she said, I think you'd just be awesome to hear her. So let's listen in to Meagan.
I would say I learned a lot about leadership and about just taking charge of a group that's very different, and we're all very different people and very busy. And so it was kind of trying to plan and orchestrate some people that maybe don't budget their time as well, or don't have time management. And so it was kind of using mind for them, and trying to be okay, this time we're doing this time we're doing this. And then also just communication, when it's not super easy.
Notice the ownership that Meagan has for her group. She isn't waiting for a prompt. She's managing a timeline. She was brilliant at connecting a disparate group of students to get the work done. She's amazing, by the way. And because I think of the flipped model, we've got more time to do these kinds of projects. The students were able to really help. Remember, again, this is this AI engine. And then the analog roots, by the way, is the crux of this, because that's building this trebuchet, right? But then she had to navigate things. She had to navigate different personalities and deadlines and skills, and she identified who was good at what. It was a sight to see. So that's Meagan. So let me set up segment 2, because leadership isn't just about logistics, right? It's about passing on knowledge. In a mastery-based classroom, the goal is for the students to become experts. Now watch how Jackson proposes his role not as a builder, but as a mentor to his peers.
A lot of us had different outside of school things. One had a job, I had a lot of football stuff. And as a team, it definitely showed me that you have to have a lot of patience with your teammates, because they might be confused in a part that you already understand. You have to kind of slow down and explain to them why, for instance, why we need the arm length to be this, not this.
So what about like as you were troubleshooting, how did that troubleshooting process work?
That was rough because, I mean, the first time we launched it, it went absolutely nowhere. And it was rough. It was like we had to do a whole lot. Like we did a lot of different things. Kept on trying, and it finally actually worked. It was kind of like, it was kind of funny because it went from like nothing, and then we got it to go to 18 in just a few.
Just one little tweak.
Yeah.
Jackson's touching on the highest levels of learning, right? So he had to teach his peers, right? He had to explain concepts to his peers, and he was frustrated, wasn't he, with some of them? But then he had to take a step back. It's like, all right, we're a team. I've got to get them up to speed. It was a brilliant move on his part, and it was so cool to watch. And then this next segment is about grit, right? We often sanitize failure in schools, but real engineering in real life is messy. Leila and her team spent 10 hours, oh my gosh, including like a Sunday, big full Sunday, on a single release pen. Well, listen to her reflect on that friction.
At the end, when we like put all of our trebuchet pieces together and like we finally got like this thing to work and stuff, I was like so stoked about it. I was super excited. But like during the process, when we had like, it was like a Sunday and we literally spent like 3 hours trying to get the launch to work and it kept going backwards. And I realized that I don't do very well when I like fail, if that makes sense. Like I was so angry and I kept trying to like walk away from it, and Ellie was like, no, like we have to keep with it and stuff. But then I think I learned in the end that like sticking with it and like making all the adjustments and stuff like really helped, because I was like super excited at the end.
This isn't just a physics problem, it's a character revelation. In our culture of instant gratification, Leila and her team learned so much about not just about the physics of what was going on, but about grit and determination. And so when we're doing these kinds of things, we are teaching students, when we give them these hard projects to do, we're not just teaching them the physics of it or the history of it or whatever. We're giving them an opportunity to grow up and shine. And I've said this in other podcasts, so maybe I'm just repetitive, but how do you want to improve the self-esteem of students? Give them hard things and then have them succeed. Then they believe more in themselves. And if we don't, I feel like sometimes we coddle our students too much and we don't give them the chance to do hard things. And when they do hard things and they succeed with support, right? I'm not just like leaving them out there to die. Then it changes everything. So if we want to reach every student, we have to realize that students are not just numbers. The students are human beings, and they are emerging leaders, and they need mentors, and they can be mentors, and they can be problem solvers, but we need to create the soil where that can grow. But leadership's, by the way, only half the story, right? I want you to join me in the next episode, which is the oral defense, where we're going to learn about the students and what they learned cognitively. So, because sometimes what happens is you can say, oh, they learned all the soft skills, but they don't understand the stuff, right? And that, of course, is going to be clear as you watch the next one, where we see, did they actually learn the content that you wanted to learn through this big, fat, hairy project? Hey, I'm John Bergman. If you enjoyed this podcast, I encourage you to push the subscribe button, listen in, share it with friends. You know the deal. Hey, have a great day. Go out there and reach every student.